comes down to also alignment in what you do in life, what you think, what you feel, and what you say. If you're able to, in the most possible situations, if you're able to harmonize that, to align those things, to me, that's when someone has reached success.
I'm the most brutal and vicious and most ruthless champion there's ever been.
Yesterday, you said tomorrow, so just do it! You should be a monster, and then you should learn how to control it.
It all comes from life lessons, and the lessons are learned through struggle.
People often choose products not because of what they are, but because of where they are. If I walk into the kitchen and see a plate of cookies on the counter, I'll pick up half a dozen and start eating, even if I hadn't been thinking about them beforehand and didn't necessarily feel hungry. If the communal table at the office is always filled with donuts and bagels, it's going to be hard not to grab one every now and then. Your habits change depending on the room you are in and the cues that are in front of you. Environment is the invisible hand that shapes human behavior. Despite our unique personalities, certain behaviors tend to arise again and again under certain environmental conditions. In church, people tend to talk in whispers. On the dark streets, people act wary and guarded. In this way, the most common form of change is not internal, but external. We are changed by the world around us. Every habit is context dependent.
Interesting.
Louisa, this is a book from James Clear called Atomic Habits. And considering you are very into self-development, I thought I would give this to you. James Clear talks about all the easy and proven ways to build good habits and how to break bad ones. And I think you could use this for all your teachings and all the clients you work with.
Thank you so much.
This is
interesting. Thank you. I appreciate it. Atomic Habits. Nice.
Hey guys, how's everyone doing? We're doing well. Hope you're doing well as well. And today we're back with the 5th episode of the Success Show. And today we are joined by psychologist, teacher, and most importantly my sister, Louisa Belguebli. And Louisa is very much into self-development and the concept of reaching one's full potential. And today we're going to talk about a lot of topics that also relate to success. And I have the feeling that now we had a lot of people on that are like a bit more famous or have really attained success and eyes many people. But here we have someone that is actually trained to help people with discovering their minds and everything that goes into actually becoming successful. And I think it's going to be a very practical podcast with a lot of tangible information that people can actually put to use. So I'm really excited to have this. Louisa, welcome.
Thank you.
Is there anything I should add to your introduction?
Thank you. That was a very beautiful introduction, and I appreciate it. Thank you. I'm glad to be here. Yeah, what you said is correct, and I'll add that I'm a school psychologist, so I work with kids mostly, and I've also been teaching a lot, and I still do that now. But mostly, I work in the field of psychology, and that entails that I mostly help kids with learning difficulties. So, for example, you can think of dyslexia. That's a very prevalent issue that I help kids with, and what I try to do with children is that despite difficulties that they might have, I try to help them reaching their potential. And so we work at the level of course, for example, with dyslexia, the language itself, but also mindset, like how can you still feel, how do you deal with difficulties or mistakes that you make? So yeah, it's a short summary of what I do.
And could I ask you about your qualifications? So obviously I know
Sure.
I know you very well because you're my sister.
Yeah.
But could you tell the people what you've studied and where you did your research, basically?
Yeah, sure. So I did my bachelor's in psychology and also in French because I wanted to be able to be also a teacher, teach French. And then I did a master in linguistics. And with that master in linguistics, I was also able to do a second master that's called the World Teachers Program. A really awesome teaching program that teaches you how to teach in an international context. So I learned also a lot about international schools and the consequences of mobility for kids. Maybe we'll travel a lot, go to different schools, the effects of that. So those two. And then I did a master in school psychology. So everything psychology, learning how to assist kids yeah, that's the combination I chose, and I'm super happy with it.
That's really nice, and I think both like the goal of both masters was to be able to help people, right? To in both teaching and psychology.
In my case, yeah.
Yeah, and those are two overlapping subjects, right?
For sure, yeah,
so so you have a very strong fundament of the basic things you can help people with. So
yeah, I've learned a lot. Yeah, it's true. Yeah, from different perspectives too.
Very nice. So I think what would be interesting to talk about in today's podcast is how one could basically reach one's full potential. And obviously this is a very broad topic.
Yeah, it is.
But I think it would be interesting to just start somewhere. And I would like to ask you, where do you think we should start?
Yeah, that's, I've been thinking about this. And so I'm going to start in a bit. I'm going to draw a pyramid on my whiteboard. Because during a training that I followed, a lady talked about the logical levels of self-development. And I find that a very useful concept. So what I'm going to draw is a pyramid.
Okay.
For the people that are watching, the people that are listening that can't see what I'm drawing right now. So I'm drawing a little pyramid triangle with 6 levels. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And in that way, we're going to conceptualize how, self-improvement, a vague term, we're trying to make it concrete. Yeah. Here's the pyramid for the people that can see it. It has 6 levels, and at the fundament, at the base level,
the bottom of the pyramid for people that are listening again.
Yeah, I'm writing an E for environment.
Okay.
And you mentioned it in your in the passage that you were reading. Very interesting.
Yeah.
So that's the first level at which one can make changes. You can ask yourself the questions, where am I? Who are the people around me? For example, let's take an example of someone and who, as their goal, they want to become more self-confident. For example, they want to have a higher self-esteem. First, they can have a look around them and think, but who's around me? Who could maybe help me reach my goal? Who might be in the way? That's environment. And as you mentioned in the book, it's a very important layer.
And just to quickly ask a question about that.
Yeah.
There's a saying that is used by many parents, which is very funny.
Yeah.
And they say, you are the sum of the 5 people that are around you.
Yeah.
And basically, if you look at from the success show point of view, that would mean that the 5 people you surround yourself with are basically like a math equation that basically resolves in you. Like that has a lot to do with that, right? Because
it's environment.
It's environment. The 5 people that you are with constantly, that could be like your sister, your mom, your very best friend.
Yeah.
Would you want to say something about that theory and the way you look at it?
Yeah. No, I think it's indeed the case that it's the people we surround ourselves with, definitely they have an influence on us. We spend time together. We have conversations with them. So that's definitely that's the case, and it's good for people to be aware of that. Maybe people want to reach a certain goal, like I want to increase my self-esteem, and then they don't realize that actually if they have someone in their lives who might not motivate them, that's actually in the way. So just to be aware of that already is important. Yeah, good point.
Nice.
Yeah. And so I'm going to draw a layer on top of environment, and that's behavior. So that's a B.
Okay. So now for people listening again on Spotify or whilst you're driving in your car, now we have a pyramid with 6 layers. The bottom layer is environment.
Yeah.
The second layer, the one above that, is behavior.
That's right. Yeah. And so behavior, of course, you can try to reach a change at the level of environment, and then behavior as well. So, self-esteem again as an example. How should I behave in a way that I feel more confident about myself? How should I speak to other people? So that's really in your actions, your day-to-day behaviors. You can also make changes on that level. And then after behavior, we can also look at skills. So I'm writing an S on top of the B.
Okay.
It's the third level of the pyramid.
We're at the middle now.
Yeah, we're at the
Kind of.
middle, and sort of, yeah, 6 layers. So skills, that's even more specific than behavior, because then we're speaking about, okay, what specific skills do I need to acquire that would help me? So maybe I should learn good skills of public speaking that could actually help me and build my self-confidence. So we're speaking about specific skills
Okay.
here.
And these skills, are we going to get into how these are built afterwards?
That's a good point. Yeah, how to depends on the skill.
Yeah.
Can already say we've spoken about this
Yeah,
before,
exactly.
about habits, for example. Like, how long does it take to really internalize a habit? And they say on average, of course, it depends on the person and it depends on what you're learning. But they say that's can be 66 days.
So that would mean just to connect a practical aspect to it.
Yeah.
Imagine I want to start training. I want to start working out.
Yeah.
That means that I would have to do it for around 70 days in order for myself to be able to consider it as a habit, and it will be easier for me at that point to do it without having to drag myself out of bed and go to the gym without feeling like a heavy load on my shoulders.
Yeah, that's right. You do it more automatically. Though I have to add that on this layer, we're actually really speaking about specific skills. So then I'm more thinking about the acquisition of a skill. Maybe someone picks up a study or something.
Yeah.
But this is still very interesting. I think this is also more on level of behavior.
Yeah, I was going to say that.
Yeah. So 66 days for... I have it myself with waking up early. I found it super hard to wake up early when I wasn't really used to it. And now I've been doing it for a long time. Now it happens automatically. I don't feel any struggle doing that.
And do you by any chance know if the same thing counts for breaking bad habits?
Oh, that's interesting. I haven't read up on that, but I would imagine... what's harder, acquiring a new habit or breaking one that you already have? That's interesting.
We'll look into that. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Perhaps we'll put something on the screen right now. How many days it takes to break a bad habit after my sister will have read Atomic Habits.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, sure, it's in here. Nice. So we've spoken about behavior, habits. Then we added also the layer of skills. And now I'm going to add another layer. And this is also a B. So layer number 4 on the pyramid has a B. And that's our beliefs. So this was more concrete. And now at the level of beliefs, again, taking the example of someone who wants to build their self-esteem, they can think about, what beliefs do I have that actually help me with my goal, and what self-limiting beliefs do I have, and are those true, or why do I have them, where do they come from? So that's examining your beliefs, and someone can make, if they want to, they can make a change at this level as well.
Could you elaborate on the meaning of limiting self-beliefs?
Yeah, that's a good question. Limiting self-beliefs is basically, in the case of someone who has low self-esteem, maybe they think that they need something to be good enough that they don't actually need. It's just in their head. So they think, if I reach this goal, or if I look good enough or something, only then will I get rid of my low self-esteem. But that's something that's in there. It's beautiful to have a goal, but you're on your way. That's already good enough. Yeah. So that's an example
and to put it in children language, basically it's thoughts you have that have a negative impact, right, on things that you want to achieve.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
They're literally limiting you. They're limiting one's full potential.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. People that maybe dwell about problems that maybe right now they can't do anything about, and keep thinking about that, and then put that on as a barrier, even psychologically, that they don't feel good. Those are examples of self-limiting beliefs. Nice. So those are beliefs, and then we move up again, layer number 5, and I'm drawing an I for identity.
Okay.
And here, this is a question I find very interesting as a psychologist. Who am I? What are my qualities as a person? What am I naturally inclined to do? what am I good at, but not just in terms of skills, but also in terms of your natural tendencies. Am I good at listening to people? Am I someone who is a good speaker? Everything identity. So who am I in the broadest sense? And I'm going to elaborate on that.
Okay, very
today.
interesting. I'm excited to hear about that.
Yeah. And then I'm quickly going to draw an M at the top of the pyramid, and M stands for mission. And these two really go together, because it's like, with who I am, now that I know who I am and what my qualities are and what my points are that I'm less good at, what do I want to, what can I, or what do I want to contribute to the world with who I am? What comes naturally to me? What can I do that would maybe help others or help myself? Basically, what is my mission? So that's the pyramid. These are all layers at which we can work on ourselves, and we can choose, basically.
Okay, clear.
Yeah. And what I've noticed a lot is that right now, when we speak about success, for example, a lot is done at the level of environment, at the level of behavior, habits, getting those good habits, motivating yourself to actually do these things. A lot is happening also at the level of beliefs, fixing your mindset. And that's a lot of success stories revolve around these levels, and they're very inspiring. But what I wanted to do today is to maybe focus more on the upper levels of the pyramid, and to really speak about, but who am I? How can I know actually who I am? And mission statements.
Could I ask, are those considered the more complicated ones, like the ones where you perhaps need to have read enough literature to actually know what happens in the brains of one? Because like behaviors and and basically the bottom of the pyramid, I feel very comfortable talking.
I've noticed too.
Yeah,
it's
like
recurring.
I like to train with children, for example.
Yeah.
And then we talk about that.
Yeah.
But I think it would be difficult for me to be like, okay, but who are you? And I'm sure that's not the question that you ask when you talk about identity, but
no,
it's you need a certain. I feel like you need a certain like specific knowledge in order to talk about those subjects, because I think it's very delicate.
It is, but it is. It's more it's less self-evident than conversations about what are good habits, what are 3 great things I can do in my week to improve myself.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Who am I? Who is my friend? How do we differ? Those are more complicated issues indeed, or more complicated topics. So, but then at the same time, I think we would put the bar very high if we tell people, so you need to go for a year, read a lot of books about psychology and things. A lot of it. There was a very interesting psychologist I once saw, and it was in Dutch, that she was saying, whenever you do something, ask yourself, what is it in me that makes me react this way? So if you get upset about something, for example, or if you feel tense in a certain situation, to have that habit of always self-reflecting and watching yourself, basically. And what I want to do today is that we're going to speak a little bit about some personality theories, and I'm going to lay out the different traits that some theories have shown that people can have, so that people can compare those things and say, oh, I'm more like this and I'm more like this. So at that level, does it make sense?
Yeah. It makes a lot of sense. It's just like it's very new to me. I was thinking a little bit. Okay, like what like but I find it really interesting, basically.
Cool.
I'm really excited to learn about the different layers.
Fun. Yeah. Nice.
So you mentioned the different theories that they are. How could one go on about defining their own personality?
Yeah, good question. And that's been a question that has been asked for a really, really long time. So people used to look at the stars and used to use astrology. It's still a popular thing right now. That's been invented a very long time ago. And they would say, oh yeah, based on how the planets stand, that has an influence on our personalities. People used to read faces and make up theories about that. That if your nose is a certain side, it might say something about you. People used to read hands as well. They used to look at handwritings and try to define people like that. So a lot of attempts have been made.
Is there any science in any of those four theories you talked about?
Yeah, no, they're not. These are not scientific. And this was before science, basically, when we didn't have the scientific method. These were some examples that were used, and they're still being used right now sometimes by some people who still.
And does this have anything to do with the astrological science? Because I say a lot of especially girls
science.
That when I start talking with them, they're like,
yeah, I love it. Oh, are you this?
Are you Gemini?
Yes, you are. Yeah,
yeah, I am actually.
Yeah.
What is that about? Could you tell me something quickly about that?
Well, that's this. That is like that old. They say. I think I've heard astrology is the oldest science of people. I think I've heard that statement. Very old thing. But. As far as I know, astrology is not. But I don't know enough about astrology. But as far as I know, it's not a science. It's an empirical thing that people used to do. Empirical means that you look. People used to just look at the sky, and they saw that when the planets were standing a certain way, certain events were happening, and they were also adding. They were also saying, okay, and when you're born, then. That's also, it affects you in a certain way. That's what I know about astrology. Very old concepts. People are just very interested in how we differ and what our traits are. And that's why, and I think also maybe more so with women than with men, because it's in women's nature to be more interested, depends of course on the women, but on average, in relationships, dynamics, social dynamics. So that's how I would explain that mostly women find this very interesting. Yeah, that's I think it's just an old thing,
and it's based on observations.
It used to be based on observations. That's how it came about. Yeah.
Sure.
And I thought, so those are the old ways that people used to do it. And what's funny is that those are all external ways. We're looking at our hand, we're looking at the planet, looking at the face. And then there was this man, Carl Jung, who came around. And he made observations. He was a psychiatrist, and he made observations in his patients. And he said, "Oh, there is such a thing as introversion and extroversion." He's the one who coined these terms, and it's and those are certain ways that people manage their energy. Some people are energized by being with others. Other people are energized by time with themselves, and that's something he had noticed. And for the first time, that was not a trait that was really based on some physical attributes, but more he saw those as internal mechanisms that people had. So that's Jung for you.
Okay, and. I mean, in French school, we had a lot of we did some psychology, really shortly we touched on it.
Cool.
And also in history class, actually, we talked about Jung, but also about what was his name again? There's not a very famous psychologist.
Yeah, Freud, probably. Yeah. So should I tell people are always interested in Freud?
Yeah, I mean, I think I've heard more about him than Jung, actually.
Yeah, it's true.
Okay.
Yeah, so when I was in university, Freud and Jung, I'll just preface by saying Freud and Jung are not that popular anymore because they don't fit the spirit of this time anymore, where psychology is more linked now to biology, and it's much more looking at the brain. But we did have a short course a lot about Freud, and then one slide or something about Jung. And I went up to the professor who was giving this course, and I asked, "Oh, can we?" I don't know why, I always found Jung very interesting, and I asked, "Why don't we learn some more about Jung?" And he told me, Jung was too big for this world. His ideas were too crazy. And I thought, And I'll go a little bit more into Jung later.
Like in a negative sense, he
no,
said it,
he admired Jung.
Or he admired Jung.
Yeah, I could see
but
it.
It didn't fit in the school. In the little drawing lines that the university had written out.
Yeah, in a way, yeah. It's not.
But now I'm really curious about Jung. Like, what was so great about him that teachers at school do not want to?
Oh, you know what? Yeah, I can tell you this, and also related to Freud. So then I'm answering both questions at once. So these two psychologists were very famous because they were at the time they were putting emphasis on the concept of the unconscious. And the unconscious means that, okay, we have a conscious mind, and that's things we are aware of. The unconscious entails like all your motivations, inclinations, things that you might do in your life, but that you don't directly have access to. You don't even notice them. You can't self-reflect on them. And so Freud said, you know what, the unconscious, that's based on personal experiences, and we only have like a personal unconscious. And then he was saying that a lot of things in the unconscious have to do with lust and aggression instincts that people naturally have, and he was the one who came with the bit of a the crazy theory that boys are actually, when they're young, in love with their mothers, and they see the father as a rival, and girls have the same thing for their father, and they see the mother as a rival, the mother as a rival, and so that creates all kinds of dynamics, and then later on that still has an impact on you. So a lot about a bit of the taboo kind of thing with lust, and that defines your unconscious impulses. That was Freud.
And just one more thing.
Yeah.
I remember I had a whole French class about Oedipus complex.
Yeah.
Is that what you described with the boy liking his mom and the dad being the rival?
That's it. Yeah.
Could you tell something about that, because I thought that was really interesting when I was young.
Yeah. Well, to be honest, I don't remember the exact story, but I think wasn't it like a man who he accidentally killed his father, and then he ended up marrying his mother without knowing that she was his mother. Something like that. I don't know,
it was something crazy, something weird.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, this is like a myth that already existed a long time ago, and then maybe Freud used that concept and called it the Oedipus complex. But that shows how vague the unconscious can be. And I'm personally, I don't know if this is actually the case, but it's very interesting. And Freud was already very well established as a psychologist when Jung came around. Jung was younger than Freud, and the first time they met, they had a conversation that lasted for 12 hours.
Wow.
Nonstop. Yeah,
I'm doing podcasts for 1.5 hours. I'm that tired after. Yeah, these men, they were so interested in each other's theories. They were both in the same field, and they had a lot to learn from each other. And Jung, when he was younger, he really looked up to Freud as well. And so Jung also did a lot of work about the unconscious. And Jung said, okay, Freud has his theories about this personal unconscious, the lust, the aggression. That's all very interesting. But he thought there's so much more to the unconscious. And he didn't believe that it's just that. And he also thought that the whole thing with the lust and the father-mother complex, that's more a reflection on Freud's state of mind than the actual reality. And so after a long time that they really had a friendship and a good relationship, and Jung didn't really dare to go against Freud's words, they actually broke off their friendship because of this clash. And that's kind of sad, but also very interesting to see. And so why Jung is considered a little bit maybe a little crazy theories, like what my professor said, he was too much, it's too big, but he had still admired him, is that Jung draws this first layer. He says, we do have a personal unconscious that's shaped by our experiences, not just what Freud says, but also many other things. And there is also such a thing as the collective unconscious. And he says that's the unconscious
part of our unconscious, deep-seated in our being, that is not shaped by personal experience. So those are concepts that we already have acquired just by virtue of being a human being.
Genetically?
In a strange way, yeah. It's already there, and it's from our ancestors.
Okay.
It's knowledge that we already have that's there, basically.
Woven into our DNA.
Yeah, I don't know exactly how, but he got very famous for this idea, especially at that time. And
does that differ from person to person, or does everyone have the same?
Yeah, he says that everyone has the same. And he then also went on to draw something he called archetypes, and so those are specific recurring symbols that keep coming back, and that he thought people have. And one more thing about this is that he came to this conclusion because he was traveling all over the world, and he was comparing mythologies, and in countries or places that had nothing to do with each other, he would find the same symbols. And so one tribe was describing these symbols, and then the other ones, and then he, based on that, he made his theory about the collective unconscious, so one of the factors. So that's why Jung was considered a little bit special, mostly about this idea, and then also other ideas he had.
Nice. So now we had a little history lesson about the two basically the two bricklayers of psychology, right?
Well,
or
they were
more
important mostly in the 20s. There are many more.
Okay,
there are many more,
it's a very broad
and many
subject.
disciplines. Oh, yeah, there's so much. It's really interesting.
But basically, two people that were really interesting for
two important
a lot of people.
men.
And now let's move on to the more practical side of it. How can one define their own personality?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So I had briefly mentioned already introversion and extroversion. So let's just go into two theories of personality that we can have a look at. And I'll go into a theory that Jung proposed in his book Psychological Types. So we already know the terms introversion and extroversion, where one draws their energy from. And Jung went on to say, as human beings, we have like our psychological makeup, and we have different so-called cognitive functions, and those can be inwardly directed or outwardly directed. So I'm going to use the board again. I'm going to draw something. Because I'm afraid that people are going to look up, Jung's theory about personality, and then they'll find it's called MBTI. And then they're going to look online, and they're going to see these personality tests, and then they will see something like, I am an ENTJ, like this 4 letters, ENTJ. I am extroverted, I'm more of a thinker, and I'm an intuitive, and I use my judgment. And that's but Jung's theory was much more elaborate and delicate than that. So just if people are going to look into Jung's theory about personality, I recommend there's a great website. It's called cognitiveprocess.com. It's the most accurate website I've encountered that really breaks it down. So it's not just about am I an introvert or am I an extrovert. It's how am I introverted and how am I extroverted, depending on what situation I am in. Okay, so
then can we conclude that everyone has a little bit of both?
Definitely.
To some extent?
Yeah, definitely. We have so-called introverted functions and extroverted functions. And what you want to know in order to become more predictable to yourselves is what about me is introverted, what about me is extroverted.
So this has to do with self-awareness, right?
Definitely.
Okay.
And I'm not going to explain there are many functions. I'm not going to go into all of them. I'm just going to go into, for example, F and T. I just drew an F and a T on my board.
Okay.
F stands for feeling, T stands for thinking.
Okay.
So Jung said, those are directions with which people can relate to the outer world and make decisions, for example. And you can do it based on feeling. So feeling stands more for values, and thinking is more logic. But then he says someone can be more of an introverted feeler or an extroverted feeler, and someone can be more of an introverted thinker or an extroverted thinker. So I am quickly drawing something on the board. Under my F and my T, I am drawing an I and an E. And I think it's interesting to know about these contrasts, especially in social dynamics, because that helps you navigate how you deal with others and what differences you notice when you're interacting with someone. So an introverted feeler, we already know feeling has to do with values, and introversion has to do with the internal world. An introverted feeler mostly has an internal thermostat, that's what I call it. So they know exactly how they feel in a certain situation, what their values are. They're quite grounded in that way.
Okay.
And they, at least that's my impression of the introverted feeling function, is they ask of others to maybe adapt to them, because they're clear on who they are and where they stand. And they assume the other person in front of them is that too. And they're very stable in that sense, or they're very aware of how they feel. I'm going to contrast that with the function of extroverted feeling. So someone who has more extroverted feeling in their psychological makeup, they have more of an external thermostat. So they might not always know how they feel inside in a certain situation or what their values are at the moment. But they like to adapt to the outer world. They're good at creating harmony, for example. So they regulate, their feeling is regulated by the external thermostat. These are the people, when they walk into a room and the mood is down, they will feel that too. Whereas the introverted feeler might not notice, for example.
Okay.
One side, same thing we can do for introverted thinking and extroverted thinking. People who do more introverted thinking, they have their internal logic. They use that as their compass. What makes sense to me? When I was making making a little French course, I was really focused on, how can I do this right? What makes a good course according to my own logic? And then you came, we had looked together, and you said, no, you really have to look, you have to take into consideration, this is my blind spot, what works for everyone? What is a useful tool, platform you can use to actually use it? So extroverted thinking is more about efficiency, external efficiency, what works for everyone.
Okay.
More goal-oriented. And I would say introverted thinking is more truth-oriented. What's true for themselves? What is right? What's accurate? Accuracy versus efficacy.
Okay.
So that's just to give you a little taste of what Jung says about personality. And then there are many more functions, and basically you can put those functions in an order depending on what's on top and what's down. That's going to determine maybe how you take in information, how you relate to others. And I personally find it very useful to know that about myself and to see it in others.
And how can one use this knowledge to their advantage?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's a very extroverted thinking question of what can we do with this? How can we apply it? And so to that, I would say, of course, the main goal is reaching a level of self-awareness. And very concrete examples of this are, for example, how is it that I am at ease in certain situations and in other situations I'm just not, or around certain people I feel like I can just be myself and relax, and around other people I'm more tense. For me personally, understanding these theories kind of gives me an idea of dynamics that are going on, and in that way you become more predictable to yourself. You already know before you go in a certain situation, like, this situation there will be these dynamics. I'm wired like this. I already know I'm going to be tired after this meeting, so maybe you can prepare. You can already set up your environment. We were talking about that pyramid, that base level, that's very important. And also in the book, you can set up your environment in a way that's optimal for how you're wired. Another example I can give, I spoke about this introverted feeling trait and extroverted feeling. So imagine a conflict between someone with high introverted feeling and someone who's high in extroverted feeling. Someone high in introverted feeling can very more easily say how they're feeling, why they're upset, and that they know where they stand, and maybe they're arguing with the extroverted feeler, and the extroverted feeler is like sitting, like thinking, overwhelmed, and then the introverted feeling person will tell the other, like, hey, say what you think, say how you feel. You can talk, like show us how you show me how you feel. I want to understand. You can speak freely. But the person with extroverted feeling, it's just not. It doesn't come as easily for them to. Maybe they need some time alone to really understand, because right now they're really feeling the mood of the environment. They're feeling the conflict and the tension. It's not this external thermometer. It's not clear yet to them how on the inside they're feeling. They need some time for that. That's not necessarily their strength. So they might get criticized on that. And if they don't know, oh yeah, that's because I have extroverted feeling and I can have difficulties with this, maybe they will get frustrated with themselves and they're like, yeah, why is it that everyone can, in an argument, for example, they can really reach their feelings, say how they feel, and I have difficulties with that. But maybe the extroverted feeler will say to the introverted feeler, you're not empathetic enough. You don't have a good feeling for the environment, the vibe in the room right now. You're not playing into that more easily. And then the introverted feeler will maybe get insecure about that. Basically, different languages are being spoken by these people. And to come back to self-awareness, I think it's important to be able to speak kind of an objective language, and personality theories are useful for this. That you can put yourself on some kind of skill. Introverted feeling, for example. Okay, yeah, this is something I do a lot. That's my natural tendency. And then, by contrast, you develop self-awareness, because otherwise, what happens is that someone saying, "I'm going to develop self-awareness. I'm going to spend a lot of time by myself, reflecting." Being with me, just really taking in my thinking a lot. What's then going to happen is you're just going to, if you're your own reference point, you're going to get more of you, and what you want is to measure yourself up to something external, basically. And that's what I find very useful about the personality theories. They give you a palette of different options, and then with some reflection and asking others as well, you get an idea of, oh yeah, this is more where I stand, this is how it can clash with others, or this is how it goes well with others. Very useful in team management as well. What type of tasks do you give someone?
And I see parallels between this and love languages. Do you know anything about that?
Oh, it's been a while since I looked into love languages. Gifts, physical touch, quality time.
There are a few.
Conversation.
Yeah.
There's a fifth one.
And
that's fun.
Those are also like different ways that work for people, right? Like, because sometimes you might think like that's crazy. Yeah. But if it's not crazy, you're just speaking a different language. And you're saying like the same things, but it's not coming in the same way. And even when dating, for example, imagine you're dating with someone and like you're doing everything in your possibility to do, because you're like, if someone did that for me, that would be amazing.
Oh
But then you're doing that for them, and it doesn't seem to work. And if I understand correctly, like we didn't talk about love languages, but they're just speaking a different language, and they're doing things in a different way. It's good to be aware of that. And also I think for speaking personal experience, it's good to have those talks before with a potential partner. Talk about what things do you value in a relationship. We're talking about personality, but I think this was also interesting.
It's very similar. It's the exact same use too. And for example, it's one thing to know, because we all know there are different personalities or there are different love language. People show their love differently. Okay, interesting. But how exactly? What are those 5? What are those 16 personality traits that are out there, or another number? what exactly are those things? And then you can really start comparing and having, because we all know we're different. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
But how exactly? And then by using theories like this, you can also have better conversations, because you get a language in dating as well. You get a language. Oh, okay. You like spending quality time more, and I like conversations. I'm not even sure if that's a love language, but you can really have that concrete conversation about how you differ. Same thing with personality. So yeah.
And considering you have been studying these theories for a long time and you know a lot about it, just to draw another quick metaphor, some people speak a lot of languages. Yeah. Right? So they speak like Chinese, Arabic, French, Russian, Spanish. They speak all the languages. They can communicate with everyone in the world. Yeah. And basically, like, it seems like they can get along with a lot of people. Yeah. Knowing all these things about personality traits and being able to basically read someone and what works for them. Yeah. Does that? I know because you're my sister. But, how does that help you with being able to get along with so many people? Because I have never seen you be like, oh, I can't get along with them, or like, it's crazy. Look what she said. You're always like, you have a certain type of understanding for people. Cool. Yeah, that I find really, I admire that, and it's really interesting. And
thank you. I appreciate that.
Also for that, right? Like, knowing about these different personality traits, do you think that can help basically being able to communicate with others or interacting with others?
For sure. For me personally, it builds like an appreciation for there's a lot of talk about diversity and the beauty of diversity. That's what it did to me. Like, I look around and I think, wow, it's so beautiful how we all differ. And it's so interesting to see these patterns, for example. I get an appreciation for human diversity and how people act and how they react to certain situations. For example, I am more someone who is very conscientious. So, for example, I really think a lot before I do something. I'm quite cautious, and then I see someone who is more impulsive. They just go for it, and they don't think too much. Maybe things go wrong, but I think that's so beautiful. It's so different than how I am. So, but I know, that's probably have high extroverted sensing, some other function that I'm very low on, and they're super high on it, and then I see that and I think, wow, that's just amazing. And that's why I'm maybe when you say I'm very positive towards other people or I get along, because I just enjoy the diversity. I think, oh, this is awesome. You have this trait.
Very nice. And I think something that's also really interesting, these traits, are they learned? Like, do your parents install it in your head when you're young? Are you born with them? How does that work?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. So nature, nurture. Yeah. I'm going to explain it by introducing one more model of personality with some traits, so that people have yet another reference point to just show this introversion extroversion thing. And then there's this very famous theory, the Big Five. It's the most scientific theory about personality that's out there at the moment. And I'm going to draw something on the board again, some traits, and then I'm going to say which ones are more nature and nurture. So they distinguish between 5 axes of personality, and there is the acronym OCEAN to remember them. That also helps me a lot. O stands for openness. So if you're high in openness, you enjoy new ideas, you have like a lot of intellectual creativity, you can play around with concepts. That's if you're high openness. If you're low, you maybe prefer ideas that fit the status quo. You're more cautious. Then there is the C, stands for conscientiousness. I mentioned it when I was speaking about myself. Those are people who like to be organized. They like to prepare for things. Someone who is lower on conscientiousness, they more easygoing, maybe more careless. They
can improvise well.
Yeah, that would be their talent. Yeah, they're more at ease with improvising.
Like we have a lot of athletes that watch the show.
Yeah.
And we had a very interesting podcast with Jordan Kroon right before. Yeah. And we were talking about how one should be able to, when they're in a fight, and for example, like a boxing ring, and their opponent suddenly changed the game plan that they are used to implementing. Yeah. you need to be really high in what was it in conscientiousness
or low, actually a bit lower.
Sorry, I mean lower.
Yeah,
in order to be able to like quickly make the change to I need to change my way of thinking and I need to like apply this and everything that I planned out like throw it in the bin.
Oh,
right?
Yeah, that's true. And that also shows that there is no positive or negative here. If you're high in conscientiousness, you have your qualities. And if you're low in conscientiousness, you might be a great fighter, for example, and you will use that in your advantage. So that's right. Yeah.
But I'm sure there are also fighters that are very high in conscientiousness.
Yeah, does that exist? Guys who really prepare their techniques.
I know that I have for certain. I mean, 100%.
Cool.
I've worked with them as well.
Interesting.
And they also have like, can they learn that? Like to be able to like kind of switch that. I mean, they can never like beat to a level where they're like, whatever, I'll just go.
Yeah.
But to come to a point where they're actually comfortable in those uncomfortable situations.
It's, to be honest, it's something I'm practicing myself. I'm not a fighter, but as someone high in conscientiousness, I know that I am less at ease in situations where I maybe have to improvise or something like being more careless. And you can train yourself. You can experiment with that. That's also the fun of once you know these things, why you might get along with other people, because it's fun to meet someone who is very similar to you. You understand each other. You meet someone who's very different from you. So in my case, someone who is very low in conscientiousness, I can learn something from someone like that. So that you can definitely practice and train yourself, and then the situations become more predictable in which you have to improvise, and your reaction to it too. And you can definitely try to then adjust yourself. But first you have to know this about yourself. And
hopefully this podcast helps people by knowing this is out there and you can put this to use. But what I find really interesting is you talked about it in the beginning, your environment.
Yeah.
Imagine that you are really high in conscientiousness.
Yeah.
And let's say you're an architecture student.
Okay.
And you study architecture.
Yeah.
And all your friends are also architecture students, and all they do is just study really hard.
Yeah.
And they work, and they have like these crazy like day plannings where they read 40 pages a day and they make summaries and everything. I mean, that's all you're gonna absorb, right? Because that's your environment.
Yeah.
But imagine
it sets the standard then.
Yeah, it sets the standard, right?
Yeah.
But imagine you need to prepare for a fight. You also need to be like your trainer will need to be a bit lower in conscientiousness in order to be able to prepare you for such situations, right?
Yeah, or at least they have to know, they have to see that about you. Like, okay, you might struggle with this. As your trainer, I'm going to prepare you to be more at ease. Yeah, definitely.
Nice.
Yeah.
Really interesting.
Yeah. So that then we also discuss how it can be used.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So that's for conscientiousness. Then we go on to the A in my OCEAN acronym. A stands for agreeableness. So if you're high in agreeableness, tend to be more compassionate, also more trusting of others. I'm quite high in agreeableness, easy to get along with people. And people who are lower in agreeableness, they might be more competitive. They might be more also detached from situations. If everyone sat in the room, they're okay. So that's if you're lower in agreeableness.
Can we say that people in the military are really low in agreeableness? Because they need to be able to detach from the situations every time. Like, for example, Jocko Willink, who was also former Navy SEAL trainer and I think also just Navy SEAL himself. He talks about always detaching from the situation, being able to look from afar. Like, is that a general statement that we can make?
I could see a link there.
Because those people need to be extremely competitive as well.
Yeah.
Because when they go through the training, it's called Hell Week to set the tone.
Hell Week. Oh,
where they basically they sit in cold water for like crazy amount of hours in the sea, right? Like in the winter, it's freezing, and you have people around you, and you see just people standing up and leaving. Like you need some kind of like crazy mental power to do that.
Yeah, well, I would see definitely there's conscientiousness there as well, because you need to really stick to a commitment that you've made, and that's more for the people who are conscientious. And agreeableness has a lot to do with social dynamics. So definitely someone who's able to give orders, for example, they're I think, are probably low on agreeableness, because no matter what, or strict teacher, you know, they're whatever the other person in front of them is feeling, this is what needs to be done right now, and I'm not going to take that into account right now.
But
so
I think
in military, I could see that too.
But you're also a teacher.
Yeah, and
I
wasn't strict.
Yeah, you wasn't strict, but
No.
When I see the gifts that your students give you, like you can talk about that,
it's very
like
sweet.
like you
Yeah.
get like little bottles of like
this basket
yeah,
with
little baskets
the bottles
with
and the
sweets
sweet
and
bread
everything.
and
I have never seen a teacher in my life get anything like that.
Yeah,
And you might not then like be able to. You're not good at giving orders,
no,
but you're super good at understanding what people need and basically like cooperating in what they want.
thanks.
So I think good teachers. I mean that's a very general statement, but perhaps they should be high in agreeableness, but they should know how to like
Wow,
like
that's
they should be able to
interesting.
like switch it on and off, right?
That's very
ideal.
interesting. Yeah, if you can, if you have that level of self-awareness where you know I should use this trait in this situation and then turn it off. That's ideal. I would love to be able to do that too.
Okay.
To be with kids when I was teaching, to be a bit more strict. And if that's too difficult, something I personally did, I just told the kids, I find it. I was also, when I started teaching at first, I didn't even follow my first lesson at university to learn how to teach, and I was already standing in front of my first class. I was honest with the students, and I told them this, and I also said that I find it difficult to be strict. The kids knew, so I think that it's this honesty. People do respect you for it, and then I used my other strengths in my advantage. So I was good at understanding them, helping them, even psychologically. Also pretty good at explaining, and those things helped me, and they made up for my lack of not being strict. As in, the students did appreciate me, even though, of course, that also had its pitfalls. But just making it predictable for myself and for the students, that's already that was pretty good. So that's
and you could do that because you were aware of that.
Yeah,
because you had informed yourself about that. And you did research.
Fighting too much with myself, like every day coming home. Oh, I'm not so strict enough. Like I know, and I work on it like in a relaxed way, but I give myself that space.
Again, we're talking about self-awareness now, right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Really interesting.
Yeah. These are very interesting topics. So that's agreeableness, and then extroversion. That was a term coined by Jung, so we already know what it is. Someone high in extroversion draws their energy from interactions with others, and someone lower in extroversion, they might love sometimes shyness, and introversion is confused. You don't necessarily need to be shy to be an introvert. You might have a great time with people, like for 1 hour, and then you need 3 hours to recover, to relax, to draw back your energy. Also very useful to know about yourself. So people who are, especially when you're introverted, I feel like in society there's maybe an extroverted standard. So people are thinking, oh, you have to be able to go to these gatherings or group meetings or parties, and you have to be able to be social and energetic. And if you feel that energetic resistance, maybe you're tired or something, if you know that about yourself, then you're also more at ease, and you give yourself what you need, basically.
Makes sense.
Yeah. And then the last one is a neuroticism. And neuroticism has to do with your predisposition to psychological stress. So some people who are high in it, they might be stressed more easily. And people who are low in neuroticism, they might be less nervous or less sensitive. Their response to a difficult situation might be more relaxed, basically.
Would it be too much of a general statement to say that in order to become successful, you need to have really high stress resistance? And then put that in it's hard to pronounce the word. It was neuroticism.
Yeah, neuroticism. So with all of I think openness, conscientiousness, agreeableness, and introversion, extroversion, I can think of good. They all have their pluses and minuses. With neuroticism, I find it hard to think of the good uses if you're high in neuroticism, if that's any good. So I personally, I think I would agree with that. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, being nervous,
stress resistance. Yeah.
perhaps it could help in feeling for other people. Like, imagine someone is giving a presentation and you see they're really nervous.
Yeah.
You could understand them better and you could help them with that.
Yeah.
But someone that's like, whatever, what they're doing, like, oh, you're stressing, you're saying all the time.
Yeah.
That
recognizing it. Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah. That makes sense.
But that definitely doesn't
weigh up to.
Yeah, it doesn't weigh up to just being able to walk into the classroom, do a presentation without learning anything. Like that's a good skill to have.
Yeah.
And now, considering we determined that is one of the traits that doesn't really have a good side. I think it's really interesting. Do you by any chance have any ways how someone could develop their stress resistance?
And I'm also going to go into nurture in a bit, and I'm going to use this neuroticism trait as well for that. Oh, you know what? I can actually immediately say neuroticism, apparently, there is a part in the brain, a very small part, it's called the amygdala. And they say that if someone has a strong amygdala response, and that's biologically determined, they're higher in neuroticism. So that means that this is also really determined by someone's brain, how the brain is wired. And so it's important for someone to know about themselves. This is how I'm wired. It seems that I am high in neuroticism, and I might get nervous and stressed when it's not yet necessary, for example. If you already have that, then you become more predictable to yourself. So you see, it's not the external reality that's dangerous. It's my amygdala response. It's how I'm wired, my response. If someone can get to that level already, they can know when they're getting really tense, they can tell themselves, oh, this is an illusion, or this is me. This is just my response to it. And in that way, they can train themselves and they can go into situations and know I don't have to really worry. And then over time, even if you still feel it, you know, this is just a feeling. It's not the reality. It goes for all these things, but this is how I think about neuroticism, for example.
Interesting.
Yeah. And then, so this is biologically determined for a big part because it has to do with really a part of our brain. And so you ask about nature and nurture. So very interesting that openness, that first trait that I mentioned. So how inventive someone is, how much someone likes novelty. That's also for a big part genetically determined. It has to do with dopamine. There's a gene that we have of dopamine, and if someone has a lot of that, they like novelty, new things, and so they might be higher in openness. So that's again something that's
entrepreneurs have that, right?
Nature, yeah. I would think so.
They need new challenges in order to.
Yeah. That makes sense. Yeah,
because
the predictability.
The contrast between. Sorry, to clarify, the contrast between an entrepreneur and someone that likes working for a boss and having stability.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's like as an entrepreneur, you're taking on more risk.
Yeah.
But the reward might be higher. But as someone that's working a 9 to 5, which is completely, which is great for many people and works really well.
Yeah.
They have a certain stability and they know that they will be able to feed their family at all times, which an entrepreneur doesn't have all the time.
Yeah. There's more. So this, I would also think maybe neuroticism also plays a role here. You have to be able to deal with that risk.
Yeah.
And some level of openness too, because you get a lot of novelties. I like it that we get a lot of new assignments. So new client, new assignment. That's a lot of fun. Yeah. This novelty that you might have less in a 9 to 5. But then maybe some people's 9 to 5 job offer that within that context, and they might then also have it and receive it in a different way. But that statement, that entrepreneurs are high in openness. I could see that. And then the extroversion, is also something that we seem to inherit from our parents, the extent to which we are or not. And then the traits that are not, that's not the case, are agreeableness and conscientiousness. So that means that's more determined by our environment. So if it's the habits we form when we raise kids, for example, or how we are raised, that plays a bigger role than someone's biology, with agreeableness and conscientiousness.
Sure.
So the answer to is it nature or nurture depends on the trait. And depends also then on your self-awareness, what you do with what you have.
Could you elaborate a bit more on the traits that people that are caused by the environment? Because if they are, they should also be able to change, right? By changing your environment.
Could
you talk about how we could change those for the better? I mean, like there's a skill, right?
Okay.
And but in the like with regards to the success show, we look at like just trying to attain one's full potential. What things could one change in order to put themselves in a position where they can attain the highest level for themselves?
So I'm quickly drawing the pyramid again.
Okay.
And then the layers.
What you're doing now is like how would you call this? Like we talked about a lot of like personality traits. Now you're like making something really clear for yourself, right?
I'm an introverted thinker. I like to create models and logic for myself to make sense of things.
What traits went into making this decision?
I want to make it as accurate as possible for the people, and to show the certain level of accuracy. That's in general. I mean, I have notes here, I can be honest about it. I want to give accurate answers as much as I can, because it's something I value, and here as well. I guess the drawings help me with my accuracy because I have the letters, the terms.
No, I'm asking.
And conscientiousness too, right?
That's what I was pointing to, because like when studying architecture, like every time I ask a teacher for explanation, they like rip a paper off and they start drawing. I asked you for a question, it was a yes or no question, and you start drawing. I don't understand that myself. But like they think they've explained something really clearly. They didn't for me. They're speaking a different language, perhaps.
Funny. That's great.
I thought I always think that's interesting, and like you explaining me this now. Okay, they're speaking like a kind of different language, and I have to be able to understand that.
That's right. So one more thing about this is also that when I speak, like if I were just to go on I've given some workshops when I was in university about these theories. My tendency was to completely explain the model, go into every detail of there's introverted feeling, extroverted feeling, introverted sensing. I would just draw the whole model because for me that's interesting. And now I try to, when I speak, I know I have different audiences, different ways of taking information. So I try to give a bit of the model and answer your questions, of course, about how can we use this, and give a lot of concrete examples of daily life. That doesn't necessarily come natural to me, but now that later in life I learned you have to give concrete examples of daily life and not just explain models, draw models and lines and things. So that's the different languages I try to apply when I explain something also while teaching, for example.
I think also personally for me, I have to get really good at this because I'm going to have a lot of different guests. I'm planning on doing this podcast for a long time.
Oh, nice,
and I noticed it like just today, like we're doing 3 different podcasts. Like
it's a lot.
You are introverted thinker. Right before you, we had a extroverted thinker. He just came here, prepared nothing, sat down, nailed it. No, cut the camera for a second. Like everything went perfectly fine. No pressure. And then we also have people that like want to make a lot of cuts, and they're like, okay, I need to quickly read something. And
my neuroticism is.
Exactly. But that's really interesting, right?
It is.
And there's no good or bad. I think that's what we're also trying to communicate here. Interesting.
So great. And we got a little bit sidetracked. So your question, and but with great, a great
tangent.
For sure. So what was your question again? With
I think I asked.
Oh yeah, you asked.
With regards to success. What could one do to, like, make the chances of attaining that bigger with regards to your theories?
So if we remember, in our pyramid, identity was here and environment was down. Identity was up the pyramid, and you're asking how can you change your identity, or maybe make certain changes in your identity?
I think it will be even easier. Let's say I have not a lot of motivation. I don't have much discipline.
Okay.
But I want to become the best architect in the world.
Yeah.
Where do I have to tweak in order to, get better at it?
Okay. So someone who is maybe not studying regularly and conscientiously is a bit lower. They need to up their conscientiousness, and the good news was that conscientiousness is not mostly biological, but it's mostly environmental. And so examples in which you could improve that would definitely be at the level of environment. Surround yourself with people who have those good habits, and then that will set a different standard than when you're just by yourself. You have only yourself as a reference point.
By yourself, or with the wrong people, right?
Or by the wrong people. Oh, that's even worse. Maybe if you're with people who are also maybe not studying, and you need to, it makes it okay. You think, oh, well, it's not if they're doing it and they're still sort of okay, then I am too.
Just like what we said in the book, right? Like if there are cookies on the counter, the chance you're going to grab a cookie is much bigger than if there's no cookies.
Yeah.
And same thing with studying. If everyone's studying, then the chance that you're going to study is higher than if everyone's just on their phone scrolling on TikTok.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, that's true. So I would definitely say surrounding yourself with the right people.
Yeah. And how do you define right people? Is that
depends on your goal.
Yeah, but
I have to surround myself with people maybe who are a bit less high in conscientiousness. Depends on what you want to develop.
And then like for the architecture example, I want to become a good architect.
Cool. Yeah.
Would I have to surround myself with other good architects, or just people that not per se have to be architects, but people that are high discipline or high like.
Yeah, that also I would say if I would be in your situation, I would. Well, use is not the nice word, but like use my surroundings with the really good architects to ask them questions about architecture specifically, and then more for my daily life, I would maybe, if I can surround myself with people who are very disciplined and have other good qualities.
But shouldn't all people do that? I've had this conversation before where someone told me. I don't believe that success is the ultimate goal. And I questioned that. I was like, no, I think we're on this earth to like make a change and do something for the better. And in order to do that, you need discipline. You need a hell of a lot of discipline, actually, in order to actually become successful and to better the world. And they were saying, no, it's not important. I mean, like, it's not important. Like, it's not really a question because you're sitting here for that. But
it's a philosophical question. I find it very interesting too.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's interesting. Like, what do you think about that?
So, I find it hard to answer this question without first defining success.
Okay. Yeah.
And I had already thought about the definition of it.
I mean, let's do it now. I always I like to ask what the success how do you define success at the end? But this is a great moment to do it. So let's advance a little bit.
Yeah, sure. Then, so that pyramid that we drew at the beginning of the. I'm going to put in the letters again. So it was mission, identity, beliefs, and we had here behavior. I'm just going to check one more thing to be sure I'm right.
Take your time.
Thanks. Yeah, we had our beliefs. Skills. Here. So maybe that person that was sitting with you, they saw your definition of success as something that they don't agree with. So maybe they were thinking, oh yeah, he thinks that everyone should become super rich and super hardworking and grinding.
I think it's really important.
Maybe that person thought, I want to have be self-sustaining and live on an island, and
No,
I don't know. But
yeah,
maybe.
I need to clarify that. My I don't want to say my definition of success should come at the 100th episode when everyone has said it.
That's
but like
yeah.
like to quickly summarize it, it's just becoming the best version of yourself.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And like it's a very broad and political correct answer.
Depends on who you are too. Yeah.
But like working out is in there definitely. Reading is in there definitely. Cleaning your bed is in there. Non-negotiables. Eating clean is in there. Like you can't tell me that you're eating McDonald's and like it just doesn't work. And people are going to be like, no, but you should enjoy life.
Yeah, the role of pleasure
to a certain extent. But if what you're saying that you want to be like a good architect, but you're not doing the things that you should be doing, then like what you're saying is not in line with your goals.
Yeah.
So then I will question.
Interesting.
That.
Very interesting. Yeah. I think our definitions align, becoming the best version of yourself. So I would say when all these things on the pyramid are aligned, so you have an optimal environment for who you are, what your identity, what your mission is, and then your behaviors and your beliefs are also in that line, and you've acquired skills that are...
So something about beliefs, and we're going on all like different tangents, but I find this really interesting.
Yeah.
And this is like a little, I feel like this is like a tree, and then you can make like your own branches.
Yeah, it's so broad,
like beliefs, does religion also fall into beliefs?
Yeah, it definitely...
Or is identity?
Oh, both. These things are not.
They don't
suit. Yeah, definitely. I think religion can definitely plays into someone's identity because they view themselves as the a part of a whole more than maybe someone who is non-religious. So that's identity, and then beliefs. A lot of beliefs come with the religion. That's the spiritual aspect of this. That's also in here, definitely. Probably also with habits. Also has something to do with it. Environment too. So
everything. We're touching a lot of things here. Yeah, nice.
Yeah. So I would say if someone manages to align all of these things, that's the definition of successful. And ideally, I would start here when kids are young, for example, or especially when they reach adolescence, because that's when they get more self-conscious. Around 11, that's when it starts, up to 18.
Until puberty?
That's also with puberty.
Okay.
Yeah. People start to think more about who am I. Maybe they start feeling a bit uncomfortable in their own skin, but it's because they're developing. So in that time, I think it's also something I did with my students when I was teaching French. I was teaching psychology, personality psychology in French, and I saw how much the students liked it. And I thought that's probably also something to do with their where they are right now in their lives. They were like 15, 16. It was great. So if people can, at some point, and when they're young, ideally, get a good grasp of who they are, what their qualities are, their blind spots.
Could you go deep, because you said align, could you go deeper in like what can they do? Like how does that look? To grasp that.
If at this level?
Yeah, and like for all the levels, how does one like really align them? Sure.
So there are different ways to go about it. I see the grind way that I see a lot that's popular right now. People are at the level of environment. You know, I was maybe poor and everything sucked around me. And then I started to change my behavior. I acquired some skills. I changed my beliefs. They're grinding their way up the pyramid. And that's very inspiring often. And what I was saying is, what if we start here first, and then
wait, for people listening, what does here mean?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, so I was just pointing that pyramid, people going up the pyramid, and then after their fight against maybe their environment and actually grinding, becoming they find themselves at the end, and then I became who I am now. So that's going from down the pyramid to up the pyramid. And I was saying, if people start here, so that's the top of the pyramid. If we teach maybe adolescents...
What's at the top?
Mission and identity. Yeah. I see really those two as intertwined. So teaching adolescents about just these theories I just mentioned about personality, for example. So someone has some idea of what their natural strengths or qualities are and what their weaknesses are. That's already given by the time maybe they're 25 or something. And these things can change, of course, but at least they're busy thinking about these things, and they know it about themselves and their environment, maybe their friends or family. So they know kind of where they stand. what they can do, what situations they might want to avoid or adjust. And then based on that, their beliefs about themselves, it can help their self-esteem as well, because they know, okay, I'm okay with who I am. I know myself. It's aligned. Then they might, it's kind of what I did. When I knew I was very high in agreeableness, started studying psychology, because it becomes easy for me to speak with people, helping others. So
I'm going to interrupt you again because
Sure.
I thought of something crazy.
Okay.
Study choices.
Yeah.
When imagine now someone is watching this, they're in, they're about to choose like the university, they're about to choose their university, their study,
Yeah.
basically the rest of their life. What should they be looking at in this pyramid?
Yeah, so I would start with trying to see what is given to me by my genes, my environment, what has come, who am I right now, what are my natural qualities and things maybe I should steer away from for now, and then based on that, what skills can I acquire that will kind of flaunt my qualities that I already have. And honestly, with psychology and agreeableness, it's a very easy example, but it's the case with me. When you're high in agreeableness, you go to psychology, it's amazing. It's just...
Because it's interesting, right? With how it went for you when you... Like, can you tell something about that? When you started with your first study, but it ended up not being what you expected?
It's true, yeah. So at first, and this is also before I got into all of these theories, I started studying law because I thought, okay, that offers good prospects for the future. It's quite, what I knew about it seemed quite interesting. And I was doing it for just a few months. I was also getting really low grades, but that's not that thing to do with personality traits. But actually, learning dry factual knowledge was quite difficult for me. And then I decided to stop because I could feel this is not really for me, and that the environment of the law, like I think it's a more hard environment than what I am into right now. And looking back, I made the right choice because I don't think that I might have still been good, especially with my conscientiousness, for example. But I would not my agreeableness is a really big part of me, and if I can't really manifest that or work with that, a big part of me would have been not used in my job, and that would have been, I think it would have been a pity, because and now that I work with kids, for example, it's so I noticed that it's really, it feels so natural, and I'm happy with that.
Nice.
Yeah, thanks. So you can then align your skills, your study choice to what you've discovered about yourself. If we were taught this in school, it would be really great.
Yeah, teachers looking at this, implement.
And then your behavior, of course, as well. But it's more easy, because if you've already done these, then adjusting your behavior to your identity, it's not that hard. And your environment, you will have created the environment that suits you for who you are, for example, now.
Yeah, it will go by itself, right?
Yeah, so it's kind of funny when I was looking into this pyramid, like it's an easy write down, but it is maybe hard at first to figure out who you are, start there. So definitely alignment of these things, and I would say then it comes down to also alignment in what you do in life, what you think, what you feel, and what you say. If you're able to, in the most possible situations, if you're able to harmonize that, to align those things, to me, that's when someone has reached success. Yeah. Nice.
And everyone can work on this, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, because we're all, everyone can examine themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you mentioned the website in the beginning. Could you mention it again? So people that want to know, what personality fits them, and basically like what things they should work on. How can they do that in a practical way? Yeah, so if we're just speaking about these theories they could look into, if they want to learn more about this Jungian theory, there is a website called cognitiveprocesses.com. I like it because I find it the most accurate way in which Jung's theory has been displayed.
I have to warn people. It is, I think, someone with high introverted thinking made it. It's very it's really a model and definitions. But if you want to really understand it, that's the place to go. If you want to really make a study of it and take your time to understand it, that's a good website.
Okay.
People can look into, of course, the Big Five. Oh, no, it's not this. That was Ocean acronym. The Big Five theory. And that's just, you can look it up on Google. The information will be pretty similar that you'll get about that. There are other theories that are interesting as well. There's the Enneagram that people can look into.
Do you know Ignikai?
Yeah, Ikigai, right?
Ikigai,
it's Japanese.
sorry.
Yeah, that has to do with doing what you love, what's useful for the world, and what pays you as well, what sustains you.
And there was one more, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. That's this alignment thing again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then there were like circles, and then a circle inside, and then basically you should do a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
That was really interesting. We'll put it on the screen right now. You can see it for yourself.
Yeah.
These theories are amazing.
Yeah.
It's really interesting.
Yeah, right. And I think that you can, of course, if that's your preference, you can study them, go in depth into the theories. But you can also just take a theory like that, sit with a friend, and ask each other like, oh, how does this come about in your life, and how, and with me.
Yeah.
So if people make that, if that's normalized or something, that also improves self-awareness, I think. There's also another one that's interesting. It's a dark triad theory, and those are about negative traits.
Dark triad?
Yeah, dark triad.
Triad. Okay.
People can look it up. That's about dark traits that people might have. I think it's mostly the people on the dark triad are. It's not a good sign. It can have to do with a personality disorder. But even that's interesting to discuss. Like, oh, how much do I score on maybe? Is
it always bad? Because, for example, Tim Grover, the trainer of Michael Jordan, always talks about the dark side, and he believes that in order to become like one of the best athletes like that, you need to have a very strong dark side, because you'll like, in order to like rise above everyone, like you need a certain. He doesn't call it ego, but a certain self-belief where you're like above everyone, and you're willing to put like work in that no one is willing to do. Basically, you think of yourself as, I need to become the best, and like he calls it the dark side, and not specifically this.
Yeah,
but
interesting.
Like these dark traits, like can they be used for good things? You think?
I think they can be. Depends. We'd have to define the dark traits. So it depends on the trait. But for example, putting yourself above other people, saying no,
I'm different.
Me first. I'm different or something. I'm going to do what it takes for me. Depends on what you want to achieve.
Yeah.
So maybe you might achieve professional success, but if it goes at the cost of relationships, that's a call someone has to make for themselves, depending on what they want.
And that is something that we see a lot with athletes. Just to get into like just some practical things, like high-performing athletes. Yeah, they are constantly working on their career because they want to become the best, and they're like super competitive. Yeah, and then they kind of like their priorities are they don't match like the
expectations maybe of
exactly.
the environment.
And like girlfriends or wives, or like you're not spending enough time with me, or you're not fulfilling my wants in this. But I think then they're also like they're speaking a different language, like we talked, because they don't see that as that way. You see what I mean? Like,
I see exactly what you mean.
For them, for sure. Seeing the girl,
and also they're not athletes. The wives, for example, maybe they are, but they're probably they have another goal in life, exactly. Family life, maybe. Yeah.
But it can still work, right, between people that are very different, like that.
If they understand these things first about each other, and if they then are willing to accept it, and they know that deep down the person loves them, but they have different priority in life. I think so. Definitely. Nice. For sure.
Like I want to give as much practical advice in this show. So I think guys, also if you're in a relationship, what would be a very good activity that your girl might really like for the boys out here.
Love it.
Just sit down with her, get a coffee, and just print out all these personality forms and just start doing it with her. She'll love you. And if you want to make some extra points, you also do some astrology with her. Oh, you're golden. That'll work for sure. So right, like it's really interesting, right?
Yeah, it is. It's a lot of fun for sure.
No, but like I was bringing it in like a joke form because I think it's funny, but like I actually think that it could also benefit in a lot of ways. Like just knowing that you have different beliefs, but you still love each other. It's possible.
Yeah.
Because some people are like, no, we don't match. Like we are not compatible for each other.
Mm-hmm.
But like you'll never find someone that's completely compatible, right? Like you have to work towards that together. And this is, I think, one of the good tools that you can use for that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is. It's very useful. And then what you said, you never. I think, there are certain personality traits that are more attuned to one another. So
makes sense.
Yeah, so that's logical actually. So that's so if someone is not yet in a relationship and they're dating, it can be useful to study these things and know, okay, no matter what, I want someone who is also conscientious. Whatever, if we live together. And we know we have the same standards for the house. It's I find very basic, but maybe that plays into the relationship or agreeableness. If you know who you are and what you want, then that can help you, I think, with looking for a good partner for you. But then you might also get surprised. So I think the key thing, the ideal thing, is finding someone who's self-aware, who's curious about you too. Ooh. And then
She's
no matter how someone is, I would say that's then you can make the journey together and learn from each other. No matter if you're similar or different, it will be interesting and fun.
Nice. Yeah. And then to quickly end off the subject, and then I want to talk about children.
Yeah, sure.
Are there some success traits, perhaps?
Oh.
Or would that be too? Would you be then like contradicting what you've learned, that everything is good and that everything can be applied in a different way? Because I believe that, certainly. Yeah. But I also think some things are just more useful to have. Yeah. Like, for example, the neuroticism that you talked about.
Yeah. I'm not sure if it's because it doesn't exist and I haven't learned it, or if maybe I haven't come across it yet, haven't read it. I'm not sure if I know about specific traits that lead to success. And again, depends, what you said, depends on your definition of success. I think I've once heard that people who are both high in openness, so who have that intellectual curiosity, who like novelty or conceptual, and who are very conscientious, it's a rare combination. Oftentimes people...
Could you remind people of the conscientiousness definition?
Sure. So conscientiousness was being very organized, when you... being very dependable to coming on time, all those things, or more with organization. Oftentimes, people who are very high in openness, they might score low on conscientiousness because they're all over the place. Oh, I want something new, new concepts. Artists too, for example. But if someone has both of those things, so if I remember correctly, I heard that that's a unique combination, because then you're both. You can learn like a lot of new things. You're very open, very curious, but at the same time, you're still grounded. You still have your things together, like your daily life is still organized. You have a good routine. You're able to have that balance, basically. That's a golden combination. I would say that comes close to what you're asking.
Nice, really nice. I mean, that was what I was looking for.
Yeah.
And so these are two things that people can work on, right?
Yeah. Openness and conscientiousness. Oh yeah, we said that openness, but I think you can work on everything. And once you're aware, you can go study someone who's high in openness, see what they do, how they react, and but if someone is just not curious about new concepts, that can be that maybe they wouldn't even want to improve that. Maybe they're like, nah, I'm not interested at all. And conscientiousness, we said that's very much determined by your environment. So yes, that's definitely something someone can.
Great. So
can
people.
Change.
Study some, like if you want to better your rate of becoming successful, I'm just going to try to give someone something like as practical as possible. Try to study people that you feel like are very open, charming, right? Like that can talk with other people. Mm-hmm. and like, am I saying it right?
Yeah, who are high in openness. So
Yeah, high in
very
openness.
curious, very open to new ideas. Who
Yeah.
don't shut off new ideas. Oh, this is weird. Oh, I don't want to.
Yeah, that, and then also
Yeah.
just your environment. I think that's the easiest one. Surround yourself with the right people that have toxic influence on you, toxic boyfriends, toxic girlfriends, even like toxic parents. Like you need to deal with that in certain ways, I think.
Yeah.
I'm not saying cut them off, but maybe talk with them. Like there are ways to do this, right?
This is a big topic by itself. If people feel like they have someone in their lives that's so-called a toxic, so toxic can be someone who's very draining, takes your energy, is just, you feel they might not have the best intentions with you, or maybe they do, but they act in a way that's really getting in your way. There is this psychologist, she's called Dr. Ramani, on YouTube. And I find her so interesting. She talks about setting boundaries. She speaks about personality disorders like narcissism, all the traits, issues that people have, and how to deal with someone in your life maybe that is like that. Dr. Ramani, I really recommend her. She is very interesting. Great psychologist.
How do you write that?
Ramani.
Thank you. Now we have some more practical information we can also use.
Oh, yeah.
Very great.
Like her, yeah.
So thank you for that. Thank you. Even myself, I will look into it. Very interesting.
My pleasure.
And then I would like to continue with children.
Yeah.
So now, if there are any parents watching this, for example, or just someone that wants to get children in any point in their life at all, how does that work with these theories? Because they're quite complex, right? Like you really need, if someone is right now listening to this in the car and they're driving, like I hope you need to be really concentrated to follow these things. It's less easy than someone just talking about motivation and how you should like take cold showers. How can this be made applicable for younger people?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So with kids, of course, I don't yet go into these complex models. And that's also because younger kids, so let's say under 11, they don't yet have developed that level of abstract thought. That's not yet part of their reality. So that's not yet necessary to do with kids. With adolescents, you can, and it's you will see it's a lot of fun. It's really nice. So I can give examples of two practices that I do with kids just at work. And for people maybe who are now thinking, oh, I'm going to turn off the podcast because I don't have kids, or that's not yet important to me. Especially the second one is also very useful for adults. You can definitely also use it for adults. It's not just for kids. But then very briefly, so because at the first practice, because with kids, I cannot yet go into these complex models of personality and how are you different than others. We, at the practice where I work, we use something called the talent cards. And that's every time that I have a new client and a new child that I'm working with, we always start the session, the first session, with discussing who are you, and what are you good at? And we make a mind map of that, the name of the child in the middle, and then all their traits and also things they like written all around it.
This can also be done with your little brother, sister, little nephew.
Yeah, it
right?
can. Yeah. Oh, and you really see kids glow also after. It's like, have that conversation. Yeah, it's maybe a young family member.
Awesome.
And then afterwards, they get out of the room, for example, where we had the session. They're like, oh, yeah, they boost their self-confidence. So it's
awesome.
really lovely to see. And then, of course, so like you need like some reference points of the different talents or traits someone can have. We really focus on the talents to boost the self-esteem of the children. And so I use these cards, and I'm not sponsored by these cards or something, but they're very useful. It's called in Dutch talentkaarten.
Your fingers are in front of what's written. Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, talent cards. It's called, and it's a bunch of cards, a lot of them, and they spread them across the room. Different talents that someone might have, and then a kid might think something that in the first instance didn't seem as a talent is actually this can be one of my strengths. Some kids don't like to sit still in the classroom. They have issues with that, and they're like maybe I'm just not very good in school because I always feel like moving. And then we say, oh yeah, but that might be your talent. You're a bewuste beweger, like a conscious mover. The translation is a bit strange, but it's someone who's very good physically. Maybe with sports, they're great. So you make them aware of that. Say, hey, that's talent. That's your thing. An introverted child, that exists. Extroverted kids, introverted kids. Maybe they are used to hearing, speak up, say what you think, speak your mind, which is also, if it's said nicely to a kid, it's a good habit. But they can learn like, oh, you're the silent helper. Your talent is to let others shine, and yeah, that's what you're good at.
I want to make a quick interruption.
Yeah, do.
Like Karim Benzema, who has been playing amazingly. Everyone that knows football and has watched the matches, he played in a team where there were stars around him forever.
Yeah.
He was playing with Ronaldo. He was playing with all types of crazy players that were taking all the shine.
Yeah,
and he was the attacker. And he never got what he deserved when it comes to recognition. That's really? how I feel about it.
Yeah.
But he was staying himself. He wasn't going out of the way, talking with media and being like, no, you should look at me. He was being the silent helper, in Dutch, stille helper.
Yeah.
And he was just assisting them. And he made those other players rise to the top.
Cool.
And then what's beautiful to see is that now he came to, now all the lights are on him.
Oh yeah.
He had missed 2 penalties before, and now he scored a Panenka, which is the most beautiful penalty you can score in an important competition. It also the most complicated one because basically you're shooting the ball with a chip, and it goes really slowly. So you're taking a huge risk.
Cool.
When it works, you're gonna get famous. It looks really clean.
Very nice.
And maybe back then he didn't have all that confidence, or he did, but he just accepted that was his strength at that moment, and he really bet on it, and it worked because he helped all those other players get to the higher levels, and he was giving them good passes, and when he had to finish, he was finishing, but he wasn't in the spotlight, but he knew how to deal with that.
Beautiful.
And that was his strength, and he bet on it. So
nice.
I think that's a good example of how
Definitely.
being a silent helper can be good.
Yeah. Oh, that's lovely. Yeah, that's a great example.
Yeah.
And it's nice that he had the confidence to stick with that, and that he wasn't trying to change himself into something else, and then he would not have been as good as that other thing that was new to him than his natural tendency of helping, of being more in the background. So that's awesome. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. So I try to help kids young Benzema's, right?
Young Benzema's, young
to
Karims.
be confident, to be okay with who he is, so that later he can make these really cool football moves.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So these are the talent cards, and then practice number 2. For that, we use something called the red and green pizza. Yeah.
For the people that are watching now on the table, if you can switch to the YouTube video, that would be amazing. It would help you understand it. We basically have a pizza on the table, and you can explain what we're seeing and what we're gonna see.
Yeah. So it's a red and green pizza.
Okay.
And the red represents the negative sides of a situation, and the green positive sides. Okay. And then when I work with kids, I use this pizza to have the conversation about some issue that someone might have. The goal, I'm not yet going to give concrete examples of how this is used. The goal of this exercise is to teach children how to deal with problems that occur in life, difficulties. And the goal of that they learn how to deal with difficulties, is that they don't identify. So on a identity level on the pyramid, they don't identify with the difficulties that they encounter. So they don't say, I'm someone who sucks in school, that's who I am.
Yeah, they detach.
Yeah, they detach. This is the situation. It's not me, it's the situation. What can I do to make it 1 pizza point more green? What can I change? If you can teach a kid that, you make for healthy, resilient adults, psychologically as well, because we also still know adults who still identify if they encounter difficulty. They say maybe I'm a failure, or it's me, I suck. They take it personally, whereas ideally the healthy thing, and maybe we can all do this sometimes, and it's okay. But the healthiest thing to do is to think, this is a situation. What can I do to make it one step better? That's what this pizza is for. And what I want the people at home to do, like as a little experiment, is, because this is also what happens when we work with this pizza with kids. Imagine someone comes up to you and they have like a problem. For example, they say, "Oh, I hate school," or "I hate my job." How would you react to that? What would you say? It's kind of difficult sometimes. Like, what do you say to someone who has that type of issue? Because that's also my work. Like, how do you give a constructive? How do you have a constructive conversation? Do you know what would you say? Someone is complaining. I hate what I'm doing right now. I mean,
I've listened to a lot of Jordan Peterson.
Yeah.
And Gary Vaynerchuk.
Yeah.
And they sometimes talk about re-engineering the process.
Cool.
So they just look at, okay, this is the problem.
Yeah.
And then they're going to break it into small bits and pieces.
Mm-hmm.
And then they look at, okay, how can we fix the problem little piece by little piece.
Oh, beautiful.
And they don't look at the problem as a whole and like it's a problem.
Yeah.
They look at, for example, school. Let's take like a concrete example.
Mm-hmm.
I am not good at maths.
Yeah.
I passed all, I passed all my subjects because I was applying this, but I'm not naturally good at maths. It's just not there. And that meant that I had to find a way to get good at it because I wanted to study architecture, so I needed like a 7.5 to pass. Mm-hmm. And then I just started surrounding myself, my environment, with people that were good at maths.
Nice.
And I was following programs that would get me better at certain, like calculus, for example, or just certain subjects that were important for me to get better at it. Mm-hmm. And then like everything that was difficult for me, I was like fixing it piece by piece. I wasn't just being, okay, I'm not good at maths, not going to work. Just looking, okay, equations where there are words inside, those go well when there's like a little story. Yeah. But when it's just X's and Y's, then I start like just having some more difficulties. So then I start focusing on those ones. Cool. And then bit by bit, and then I ended up passing the exam because I worked on all of the small different components. Nice. And later on I put that together. Beautiful. So you broke it down. And then you started working with those pieces. Yeah, that's also what the pizza is for, breaking the issue down. Nice. Definitely a useful model to introduce someone to if they come with a problem. And then in the conversation, do you immediately say like, oh, okay, let me introduce you to this model. Like that's also what I wanted to show to people, because it's not, if you have kids and you want to use this, it's great, it's very useful. But you can also use it on adults or on yourself. How do you... Yeah, and at a conversational level, where do you start? Do you immediately say like, check this model, or how does that go? I think personally, I'm not sure if this is the right way, but ideally I would ask a lot of questions. Yeah. Try to gather as much information as possible. Yeah. And then ask them what they would do. Oh yeah, nice. It comes from themselves. Yeah, it comes from themselves, because if I say it, like it's not as valuable as when they come up with it. Yeah. For sure. So I think that's a good tip. Yeah. Yeah. So if you're trying to help someone in your environment, it's great that you have good advice for them. And you can give it, but give it as a last resort. Try to ask as many questions as possible so that they come up with solutions themselves. Yeah. Yeah. And so, for example, how we would put this into practice with the pizza. I'm just going to put the microphone up a little bit. Yes, we didn't have to interrupt the podcast. Perfect. Okay, so is it visible? Yeah, it's visible like this. Oh, then I just leave it like this. Okay. Okay, so for example, if you want, you can be the child. Yeah. And the child who really doesn't like school. So you come in and you say, I just hate school. Yeah. Okay. So the first thing to do in a conversation like this, either with a child or with a friend or family member who has a problem, is you want to really acknowledge the problem first. So we can't go into solution-focused mode immediately. I have to say, how was your day there? What did something happen today? And then you can say, oh yeah, my teacher
was rude to me, or I was rude to them.
Yeah, my teacher was rude to me, and I got bullied on the like in the class because I wasn't able to solve a math problem.
Oh, that sucks. Yeah, and then you really go into their experience, like that's really unpleasant to get bullied. It's really a bad,
you
bad
acknowledge
feeling.
also that
You have to acknowledge it.
okay.
Yeah, because they need to feel heard. Everyone needs to feel heard with their problem, and you really need to take some time out for that. That's really, really unpleasant. The risk with this is that you stay too long into the problem-focused conversation. So you need a sweet spot. You definitely need to acknowledge it. We're not robots. But if for example, if we're speaking about a session, if the whole session is only going to be about the problem and how bad it is, the kid is going to walk out of the room feeling worse or just the same as before. So once the problem has been properly acknowledged, then, for example, we can take the pizza as a useful tool to go into the solution-focused mode, so not the problem anymore. And I can ask the kid, okay, so your school situation, if you were to draw it out on the pizza, and red is the negative and green is the positive, what would it look like?
I think like this is perfect. It would be half would be good and half would be not as good.
Okay.
And the good part being that I have two very good friends at school.
Nice.
And the bad part is that I'm being bullied by other children, and I'm not so good at maths. So that and guys, we're now simulating like a little psychology experiment for the people listening.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And so you already described the red and the green. That's good. So now we can enter solution-focused mode. We already mentioned some of the green, so that makes someone think about, okay, what is okay about the situation? It's not all red. Maybe it is all red, but in this case, and oftentimes it's not all.
Just for people listening now on Spotify and they're not seeing what we're seeing.
Yeah.
When red means it's not as good, right?
Yeah.
And green is good.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. So they see this pizza, and now right now half is red and half is green.
Yeah.
And so the next question I would ask is, okay, if the pizza were one piece more green, what would that look like? What would have been something that maybe you would have changed about the situation?
I think perhaps I would have taken some extra lessons in math, and that would have made me better at it, which would also directly cause me to be less bullied.
Oh, lovely. Yeah. So now someone is already thinking about solutions, and they're coming up with it themselves too. I'm not giving suggestions.
Ooh.
Yeah. Then that's a very useful thing. And
I wasn't even aware that I was doing it. Like whilst we're telling you, that's why I had the little ooh moment.
Nice. So that's, and if someone doesn't have this pizza tool with the pieces, you can also draw it. So you don't need the tool. You can even do it with Lego pieces, like a little, with younger kids, maybe it's fun, like stairs, and then a little Lego piece, a little man of Lego, and then he's standing on, he's gives the situation 2 out of 10. It sucks. It's 2. And what would he have to do to go up one step of the pyramid to make it look like a tree? That's also nice and visual for kids. And then other examples of questions that you can ask that are solution focused, both with kids or with your friends. I wrote them down because then I know
go ahead.
I tell them all. So is there, for example, anyone in your life who could help you to do this thing, that, for example, the solution you just mentioned, who could help you with that? So they start thinking, oh yeah, maybe I can ask this person. So again, more thinking about more solutions. Have you ever had a day in school in which the pizza was mostly green, or was completely green, ideally? What did that day look like? And so they start thinking, oh, actually, maybe there was a good day once. What did that look like? And then what did you do during that day? What did you do differently than what you normally do? And so the goal of all of that is to put someone in a different state of mind that's not just focused on the problem and the worry, but looking ahead, looking at a hypothetical situation that's maybe not yet there, but that is in our power.
It is conceivable.
Yeah, right? Yeah. If you can teach kids that habit, and they internalize that, you create resilient adults.
And I think also some more practical advice, like sports.
Yeah.
I think that children that are put on sports at a very young age, they're kind of forced into this. Like they're kind of forced into thinking about solutions. Look, like quite frankly, if you're overweight, you're not going to be able to run as fast as other kids.
Yeah.
What do you have to do? Change your eating habits. And your teacher will tell you. That's something I love about trainers.
Yeah.
Like they, maybe because they're low on agreeableness, or most of them, they'll just tell you, look, you're fat, man. You have to lose weight in order to run more and be more healthy.
And
they'll help you with everything in your life. And I think that's great. And like they just look at the solution, you have to do that. And maybe it's a bit too harsh. But for some children, especially children...
it can be necessary. It depends on their personality. It can also... But it's interesting what you're saying.
What you're saying is true. It could also completely destroy someone's self-esteem, right? To tell them that they're fat. And we have to watch out with that. But for children, I'm talking about myself right now. Like my teacher told me, look, if you want to get stronger in the taekwondo ring, you have to gain some weight. You're too skinny. It hurts for 2-3 days. Okay, now let's get to work, man.
Nice,
So look at your child. If he's able to take it, I think it's good to bring him the news and tell him the things that he should work on, and in a solution, or not tell him, ask him, and then he has to figure it out himself. But having that conversation is most important.
Yeah, for sure.
And then also helping him with that.
See how you can support him and ask him, how can I help you with your goal?
That's a good question. With everything, right?
Especially if you're the parent, that's like something, you're the closest adult to the kid, so what can I do?
What I find so interesting about this podcast is that when people are telling me about different theories they have, as this is not my work, like doing a podcast. I run a media agency, and when negotiating with a client, it's exactly this. You look at the problems that are in the company, like what's the red, what's the green, how can we better it, and then you ask questions, and then they have to come up with themselves, and then you should be able to provide that. And obviously there's some tricks where you already need to be able, you kind of know what they're gonna say, so that you can prepare your answer, and then when they tell you I need videos, you can be like, and we make videos. So it's really interesting. So like these theories, guys, it's really applicable in a lot of different ways. And I think like it's good for everyone, right?
For sure. You can really get creative with what you just said now. That's very useful. Just for me, I have a first meeting on Monday with a new client. This structure is very, just definitely asking them, what are the red, what are the greens? What solutions do you see? Oh, I can help with that in this way. That's awesome. Definitely useful. So it's also in business. You can use this.
Business, sports, everything. Nice. No, this is great. And these pizzas, I mean, like I was going to ask you, where can we get this? But like you can make them yourself. We don't even have to tell them.
You don't
because
even
I
need
know
to.
there will be some people.
Some little web shop that I found.
No, let's not tell them, because there will be some people that will be like, I don't have it, so I can do it.
Oh.
No. You have to do it, and you're going to find a way to do it. Because in this show, we don't support people being lazy. Just make your own little green-red
pizza.
Paper pizza, and you got this.
For sure. So, use your Legos.
Use your Legos.
I'll say one last way to do this. You don't need the pizza. What you can do is, and it can even be more. This can be an even more stronger technique than the pizza. So you have like a room in which in which you have space, and then you take pieces of paper, and then you write like 1, and then 2, 3. Different piece of paper, you line them out on the ground.
On each paper there's one number, right?
Yeah, from 1 to 10, because someone can then grade the situation from 1 to 10. That's also kind of what we do with the pizza, though it's more pieces, doesn't matter. You ask the person to stand next to the grade that they give the situation right now. So maybe the situation is a 3. Again, it sucks. They're standing there, and then they look ahead, and you ask them, okay, what can we do to make the situation look like a 4? And then they physically take a step, they go stand next to the 4, and then you ask them, okay, how does it feel now that you stand here? So then you kind of, it's a bit of like very creative, but
you're connecting movement to the thinking as well.
Physical steps, and then you make them walk up that skill and say, okay, let's do something crazy. Go stand at the 10. Go stand there.
Ooh.
Tell me, close your eyes. Tell me what it's like. And then they're fantasizing about
they
it.
will, like we have talked about this in the previous podcast, guys.
Yeah.
They will visualize what it is like to be a 10.
Yeah.
And they will make it conceivable in their brain.
Exactly.
Because someone that cannot conceive how it is to achieve, let's call it success or whatever, like full potential, they can never do it because they don't know what it looks like. So they have to think about that.
Yeah.
So this is amazing for everyone, not just children, also for top business people. Anyone that's watching this podcast, do that. If there are aspects in your life that you think you could like better, do what she said. 1 to 10, stand wherever you're standing now. It might be a 4, might be a 5. Go stand like one step further each time, and then try to step on the 10 if you dare to. And think about, just close your eyes and think about what it would look like if you stand there. And after doing that, reverse engineer the process and look at the small tiny bits you can do to get there. And I think that's a beautiful way to end the podcast, right? If we touched on everything that you wanted to.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we've spoken about everything that I had in mind to discuss. Yeah, I hope it was interesting for everyone watching. It was fun to talk about.
Everyone watched that till the end. For everyone that stayed watching until the very end, we thank you so much. And if you enjoyed it, share it with your friends. Leave a comment. Give us some feedback. We always want constructive feedback. And leave a like. That would help the podcast. And we can get bigger guests for you guys. So thank you for watching. Louisa, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
And
thanks.
We'll see you guys soon in the next one. Ciao.
I'm the most brutal and vicious and most ruthless champion there's ever been.
Yesterday, you said tomorrow. So just do it! You should be a monster, and then you should learn how to control it.
It all comes from life lessons, and the lessons are learned through struggle.